and cellulose. Fast-growing plants that are low in lignin and high in cellulose are most suitable for producing ethanol.
Things like switchgrass, Hennep, hemp has tremendous potential, both because it has many products to be produced from it, and also because of the tonnage that can be produced per acre.
Ethanol from lignocellulose crops is being developed by Tyson-Zeiland Corporation and the Solar Energy Research Institute in the US, and Apace Research and the University of New South Wales in Australia. Research is showing that ethanol could be produced economically on a small farm or community level. It could also become one of the world's major agro-industries, replacing the petroleum industry entirely.
It's estimated that by the year 2000, we will have demonstrated processes and technologies for the production of ethanol from cellulosics that will be able to produce ethanol at a price competitive with crude oil prices. Even the United States could produce all of its transport fuel needs as neat ethanol. Australia, no problem. All of our liquid fuel for transport could be ethanol.
These days, the hemp plant is most commonly associated with the drug marijuana found in its flowers and leaves. Historically, however, marijuana has been much more than a recreational drug. The father of Chinese medicine, Emperor Shen Nung, included marijuana in his pharmacopoeia almost 5,000 years ago. Recently, marijuana was found in a 1,600-year-old skeleton of a woman giving birth near Jerusalem. Medical literature of the time indicates that marijuana had the power to increase the force of uterine contractions and to provide a significant reduction of labour pain. References to marijuana are also recorded in Egyptian, Assyrian, Greek and Roman writing from the same era. On the Indian subcontinent, marijuana is found in many preparations in ancient Ayurvedic medicine and is still widely used today.
In the last century, marijuana was mainly used in tincture form as a treatment for migraine headaches, for menstrual cramps, for nervous anxiety, as a sedative.
Dr. Lester Grinspoon is the world's foremost researcher and author on medical marijuana.
Now, the modern uses of cannabis are quite striking. First of all, it's people who have to get cancer chemotherapies for the treatment of various kinds of cancer. Some of them lead to the most pernicious nausea and vomiting. And there are drugs which are used, available antiemetic drugs. But even the newest ones don't give everybody relief from this. Give them cannabis, about 90% of them get excellent relief. They refer to it as miraculous. It's used in the treatment of glaucoma. It's a disease of the increase in intraocular pressure, and it can lead to blindness. Well, there are drugs to treat this, but those drugs have a lot of problems with them.
My condition is glaucoma, and after a year of trying the conventional medications, which are very serious, some of them are actually based on nerve gas, and my body did not respond well to them, a doctor decided to uphold his Hippocratic oath instead of the hypocritical law and tell me that if I didn't start using marijuana, I would go blind.
It's been demonstrated that the cannabis has a remarkable capacity to lower intraocular pressure, and there are people now who believe that they have saved their eyesight by using cannabis.
As long as I use marijuana in any way, such as eating it or smoking it, either way, my pressures remain perfectly normal, as if I don't have the disease at all. It's a total deterrent for me.
Cannabis has also been proven to be of therapeutic value in the treatment of AIDS, multiple sclerosis, paraplegia and quadriplegia, asthma, epilepsy, pain relief, and other ailments. It has also been used as a topical antibiotic and analgesic. Dr. Andrew Weil was the first and about the only independent researcher to ever get permission to study marijuana. He carried out his lab experiments at Harvard University Medical School in 1968. He is also a well-known author.
I think the great advantage to trying to find medical uses of marijuana is that it's so non-toxic. You know, relative to most of the drugs that we use in medicine today, it's very harmless. It just doesn't do that much to the physical body.
But marijuana remains one of the most illegal substances on the planet. In US law, it is placed in the most dangerous category, Schedule 1.
It's in that schedule that drugs like LSD, heroin, and marijuana are placed. And drugs that are in that schedule can't be used at all. They're completely off limits. Can't even do any clinical research. For the last 19 years, all efforts to pry cannabis out of Schedule 1 and just move it to Schedule 2 have failed.
In 1972, the US Drug Enforcement Administration's senior judge, Judge Francis Young, commenced hearings on marijuana.
He came up with a 60-odd page opinion saying marijuana is probably the safest drug in the pharmacopoeia, and it certainly has medical utility, and it should be moved to Schedule 2. It's quite extraordinary just how steadfast the U.S. government has been in not allowing this to be used as a medicine. My hunch is that there's some kind of fear that if we use it as a medicine, the camel will get its nose under the tent, and heavens only knows what might happen.
As Judge Francis Young said, it's unreasonable, arbitrary, and capricious, and I add immoral to that list.
It's become so expensive on the street now that frequently these people who need it for medicinal reasons grow it, and they get caught.
I was arrested and taken to a county jail, which was pretty unpleasant, for the illegal rape, as I call it.
I tried it, and I was able to actually cook a meal and eat it. And ever since then, we smoked it for 2 years, and then that's when we got arrested.
12 agents from the local vice squad played Miami Vice, shattered their front door, put guns to their heads, drug them off to jail.
I didn't have no shoes because they didn't let me, put my shoes on. So I went to jail barefooted. That was my worst nightmare that I've ever had.
It's just awful that these people should have to suffer this way. I mean, the law imposes, here are people who are already suffering from serious diseases and disorders and symptoms, and the law is now imposing another layer of anxiety on these poor people.
The American pharmaceutical establishment and government have been very reluctant to allow people to use marijuana for these purposes, because to do so would be to admit that it had positive uses. And one of the fictions that has to be maintained in the war against this evil plant is that it has no redeeming qualities. And if you established a therapeutic use for it, that would be a redeeming quality. So instead, the government wants people to use synthetic THC or analogs of THC. In my experience, those substances are more toxic and often do not have as good effects as marijuana itself.
THC, or tetrahydrocannabinol, is the active ingredient in marijuana. Ironically, synthetic THC, marketed as Marinol, is legally available for medical use.
Doctors, pharmacists, pharmaceutical companies are very threatened by the idea of people having direct access to substances that really work. And so there is a lot of effort to scare people away from natural medicines by telling them that they're dangerous, that things out of nature are more dangerous for you than the products of pharmaceutical companies. And I think that is not a good thing to tell people. In my experience, natural medicines are much, much safer than synthetic and refined ones.
This realization is spreading. In 1991, Dennis Perron launched a San Francisco citywide referendum for medical marijuana. Proposition P won by a landslide. This preceded similar victories in several other U.S. cities and the California statewide initiative of 1996. Now, in downtown San Francisco, the Brownie Mary Rathburn building is home to the Cannabis Buyers Club that serves marijuana to 10,000 patients. Attempts by the federal DEA to close down the building and arrest Perron and his staff have been firmly blocked by the San Francisco city authorities.
2 million people are infected with the HIV virus. 500,000 people get cancer every year. These people are our brothers and our sisters, our relatives, our aunts and uncles, people we love. I don't think that any of these people, any of these relatives would stand in the way of their brothers and sisters getting a medicine that would help them.
Unfortunately, modern usage of the hemp plant centers around only one of its many uses, its ability to alter consciousness. Like the other uses, this is also not a recent phenomenon.
The oldest domesticated plants are the drug plants. We have historical evidence that they were domesticated by people before food crops. In various cultures throughout history, marijuana has been used, valued, because it was a doorway to other states of consciousness.
It's a blessed plant. It's a blessed plant. It can give you a little happiness.
Marijuana has been an important religious sacrament throughout Africa, the Middle East and Asia for thousands of years. In Hinduism, the god Shiva is said to have brought cannabis from the Himalayas for human enjoyment and enlightenment. Why then is marijuana use so controversial in Western culture?
Marijuana cultivation and use in Europe probably was mainly as a fiber plant and food plant. And it's very possible that many people who grew it for fiber and for seeds did not know of its use as a psychoactive drug.
Terence McKenna is a leading researcher and author on the traditional uses of psychoactive plants.
The absence of a straightforward hallucinogen or psychedelic in the flora of Europe has given Western man a kind of particular horror of the kind of boundary-dissolving experiences that attend these plants. Another factor is the Christian church. The reliance of magical folk practitioners on plants was consistently suppressed by the church. So we have evolved our peculiarly alienated form of science and social polity completely in the absence of any connection back into the magical side of nature that Celtic and earlier peoples were very concerned to cultivate. So this, I think, is the source of our particularly destructive relationship to the earth and our particularly alienated state of social relationships among ourselves. Only 100 years has Western humanity and civilization actually grappled with the dilemmas which these substances pose. So we're at the beginning of making an adjustment which many traditional societies made a comfortable accommodation to millennia ago.
Our beginning to make an adjustment has been a rough one.
Our nation has zero tolerance for casual drug use.
When I was in England, I experimented with marijuana a time or two, and I didn't like it. and didn't inhale and never tried it again.
If you do drugs, you will be caught. And when you're caught, you will be punished.